This is an election year. Elections are almost always won or lost on the whole issue of the economy, and I would suggest that the controversy around your shadow finance minister Barnaby Joyce has managed to shift the focus back to the economy, which is the government's preferred territory. And why wouldn't it be? Because Australia has survived the global financial crisis in better shape than almost any other developed country.
Well, yes, and it was interesting that back in February last year, no less a person than Paul Keating was talking about the United States potentially defaulting on its debt. So, there's been lots of warnings.
Do you think that Australia is a potential of defaulting on its debt?
About US default. The truth, Fran, is that we have come through this pretty well, so far at least, but that owes much, much more to the serious reforms that were put in place over the last 25 years by governments of courage and vision than it does to the reckless spending of this government over the last 24 months. Now, the only reason why this government has been able to spend without getting itself into the kind of difficulties that other governments have got themselves into is because of the fiscal inheritance that it had from Peter Costello and John Howard. And I think it would help the Prime Minister's credibility if just occasionally, rather than pretending that he was the greatest economic genius of all time, he acknowledged the good work of his predecessors. All
right, let's just be clear here, though, that you believe that Australia can or can't repay or is close to any danger of not being able to repay our national debt?
Australia is in a very sound fiscal position by comparison to other countries. Nevertheless, the way this government is mortgaging the future to fund a spending spree is utterly reprehensible.
So your problem is not the amount spent, but the way it's been spent?
Well, it was too much too soon. That was the whole problem. Now, there are other countries which have chosen a different path, and there's no evidence that their response has been any less effective than ours. For instance, in New Zealand, they have tried to reform their way through the global financial crisis under the new government's leadership, and they seem to be doing pretty well. What Mr Rudd chose to do was to spend his way out of the crisis, and sure, because of our fundamental economic strength, we're in reasonable shape, but we're much more indebted than we needed to be.
Tony Abbott, thank you very much for joining us on Breakfast.
Thanks, Fran.
Opposition leader Tony Abbott.